Everybody, Colin Stevenson here. I hope you are all well today. I am joined again by my hero, John Lenhart. Hi, John.
How you doing?
Today we are wanting to wrap up. We've been discussing racism, John and I, and then I had Ed Mabry on the other day, who also discussed racism part 2. So this is part 3. We're wanting to discuss the high points. We want to discuss the points of how we can all work together and dissolve it rather than create it worse. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hand over to John, and John can give us a start on it.
So the big point, and Ed made this point several times, is that we are trying to dissolve this by looking at people as humans, not looking at them as animals or robots. And the issue is everybody out there thinks their solution is treating people as a human. And as Ed showed pretty emphatically, you're not treating them as a human, you're treating them as a robot and animal. And one of the issues, and one of the reasons why I believe these videos are going to help people is the internet is a permanent and public record of your beliefs. And there are a lot of people out there who have written and said things that I believe in the coming years, when we look back on it, we're all going to go, wow, that person was the cause of making the racism worse. And you and I don't want to see that with our viewers. So this video is just to help you hit the high points and make sure you are talking the right way so you don't say anything you're going to regret in the future. So all of this is about, we are humans, we're not robots, but people think they're talking about humans and they don't realize they're talking about robots. So the first thing we covered in the very first video with me was we need to get the emotion out. We're humans. Denying people the ability to let out the emotion is treating them like robots. So if anybody gets upset that people are getting the emotion out, they're already on the wrong side of this. We said you need to get the emotion out, not at another person. If you get the emotion out at a person, you will not feel satisfied. It is satisfying to get the emotion out first thing, because talking and being logical with people who don't have the emotion out is treating them as a robot, and it will never work, and it makes the situation worse.
Absolutely. Sorry, yeah, so I was just to touch on that is because, you know, people feel that they have to, again, we've discussed it before, that they have to get something out to change it. But they're not thinking about the satisfaction that's coming after it. Are they helping or are they hindering the situation? You know, and as we discussed before with you and with Ed, I never did anything about any of these protests or any of these things until we created video content that came from a place of love, it came from a place of fact, and it came from a place of humanity. That did not hurt anybody. And I have had several people from certain different types of race or religion or whatever you want to call it, the categories, come to me and say, Colin, that was lovely what you said there, and it all came from a place of love, and it does. So what we've proved is that we can dissolve racism having open conversations over the space of over 2 hours without having to mention a certain race or a certain type of person. So surely people can live their lives like that.
Right. So in the first video, I talked about an article I wrote January 31st, and it basically shows, and it was from 3 Harvard Business Review articles, that our brains are naturally racist. Our brains naturally categorize. Our brains naturally work to analysis. I shared that on the 31st. I shared it with all these influencers. Nobody cared. Now all of a sudden everybody says, take a stand for this. We got to start with that point, because everything you naturally want to do to solve this is making the racism worse. We have to do the opposite direction. We have to go to synthesis. So that's an important point, is realize your brain is naturally racist. It naturally works to categorization. And what we have to do is we have to go the other way on purpose. Okay. Now I saw a video the other day from like 2018 saying that racism was unconscious. It's a neuroscience, and they're right. And the book Blink showed this. So one of the things I like to go on LinkedIn and ask people, do you think racism is conscious or unconscious? If racism is conscious, then the way to fix it is conscious. Stop being a racist.
Yeah.
But we've been doing that for 50 years and it hasn't worked. Now you got neuroscience saying racism is unconscious, which means if you try to fix it consciously, you are making it worse. The way to fix racism is unconscious. So in the book Blink, this is a great example of what this looks like, okay? In the book Blink, a black person sitting on a bus, and they go to sit down on a bus, and a white person imperceptibly moves away. You might not even consciously have seen it. The black person unconsciously feels that person moving away, and they go, that person is a racist. And they are.
Yeah.
The black person tells somebody, that person's a racist. And we say, how do you consciously know that? Now, can they explain consciously why they believe that person's a racist?
No, because they felt it.
You're right. So we say, you're wrong. They're right, okay? And we just told them they're wrong when they're right. We just did an injustice.
Yeah.
So this is why this is so important to understand racism is unconscious, it's not conscious, and everybody out there trying to fix it consciously, and everybody just saying, well, just do this, is making it worse. Do not go on the internet and have a conscious solution, because in a couple of years, we're going to look back and go, guess who was the cause of making this worse? You were. So how do you make this better? We talked about that, communication and uniqueness. And Ed told this wonderful story about the dendrites and how he hung a positive emotion on this Hispanic or Mexican tree with Javier. Yep. And now when he references that tree, he can't help but feel good. So one of the things I loved about watching your video with Ed is you knew you were compassion server, big picture. Ed knew he was perceiver teacher, small picture. You two referenced that you had a meeting, and Ed told me privately it was going to be a half-hour meeting, and you guys talked for over an hour and a half.
Yep.
Part of the reason is you both knew your uniqueness, and you knew the uniqueness of the other person, and your focus was talking into that uniqueness. And when you do that, you give energy. So these intangible drivers are uniqueness. This is not a personality test. And I covered this. Personality comes from the Latin word persona, which means mask. Hippocrates created the 4 temperaments. Every personality test is based on Hippocrates saying, every time I see one of these 4 behaviors, I know the person is unbalanced. They have too much or too little bile, black bile, phlegm, or blood. Every personality test promotes racism, and every personality test is actually showing how the person's unbalanced. It's not who the person is, and it can change. It's good to use a personality test to figure out how not to trigger somebody, but that is not your uniqueness. Intangible drivers are your uniqueness. And in my video, I showed how we use a synthesis approach, not analysis, not a racist approach, but we look away from the person to figure out your uniqueness. There'll be a link in here that gives you a link to how to figure out intangible drivers, because intangible drivers are emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is not me looking at Colin and going, he's happy. That's not emotional intelligence. That's reading someone. Emotional intelligence is not me being able to hold up my emotions. That's resiliency. Emotional intelligence is me being able to understand how Colin sees and feels about the world. Because I know he's compassion server, I know how he sees and feels about the world. I know how to talk to him that he will have more energy. A personality test ensures that you don't drain someone of an energy. Personality tests do not tell you how to give people more energy. You understand your uniqueness. Ed understands his uniqueness. You interact, and all of a sudden, an hour and a half feels like half an hour. Because you both gained more energy. And you could see it in the video. And you two understood it. So I want to really stress this. If you understood your uniqueness, your intangible driver, and we'll have a link so you can figure that out, you would have true emotional intelligence, and you would be able to bond just the way that you and Ed bonded. That was your guys' second meeting, and your first meeting was a lot longer than the second one.
Yeah. Now, just while you're touching on that, okay, from the outside looking in, people would have looked at the differences, like there's Colin the white guy and Ed the black guy, right? That's what people look at, okay? That's when they look at the video. when they're not treating us as human beings, as our uniqueness, okay? Now, what I can say is my compassion server and his administrator teacher, or teacher administrator.
No, he's the receiver teacher. I'm
receiver teacher, sorry, you're administrator teacher, right? Okay, so Ed and I couldn't be more opposites in our ways. Now, from people looking from the outside physically, we look totally different. We don't look at that. We look at how we are inside and how we communicate. Now, because compassion server is complete opposite, okay, from Ed, you would think this is, if we didn't look at that, we would understand why that person didn't get us. They don't get what we are saying, but because we understood, it allowed us to just open up and feel comfortable.
Right. So Ed knew how to talk to you to give you energy. You knew how to talk to him to give him energy. And what's interesting is you two just flowed. Okay. You and I flow.
Yep.
And I'm administrator teacher. Ed's perceiver teacher. I'm administrator teacher. I'm big picture, he's small picture. He and I get on the phone. It's the quickest hour, and usually we go longer an hour too, but it's the quickest hour of my week. And we were joking this week after watching the video of you two guys. I said, you know, Ed, if you and I had a show, a video, our show would get 2 likes. The only 2 people in the world who would like our show is me and Ed, because we need a teacher. And we just, you know, he said, I want to help you become more right by showing you where you're wrong. And I'm like, I crave a person who's going to help me be more right by showing me where I'm wrong. My wife is perceiver, teacher, small picture, but internal processor. Okay. So Ed's external, I'm external. We interrupt each other all the time. Okay. We know that because we're external. But I sit there and I have these theories and these models, and I'm not small picture enough to figure out where I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So I do all this, and then he just boom, 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 boom. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people, Ed said, I have a very small group of friends, and he explained it. It's not because he's black. He has a small group of friends because he knows his uniqueness, he knows the value, and Ed gets along great with people who are mid and high self-esteem.
Yep.
And when he and I first met, we were arguing through the internet, but I'm high self-esteem, and he couldn't believe someone actually valued what he was saying. And that's why we have these conversations. And I love Ed. I love my wife, because they provide the thing I desire more than anything else in the world is tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me how to make this better. I really want to know. Yep. But Ed and I talking in front of all of you, no one would watch that. Okay, it's because Colin. It's funny. I said, Ed, you know, I think there's some more part 1s and part 2s we could do in other areas, because Ed and I have a lot of interesting theories and stuff. And I said, and we'll definitely do them through Colin, because nobody wants to watch Ed and I talk with each other. So that uniqueness is huge.
And just as you touch on that, the extra part 1s and part 2s, I will flow because I want to understand what you're feeling. And that is how we flow. It doesn't matter about the information. It doesn't matter to me, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's I want to understand what you're feeling, and I want to give you something back from what you're giving me. You know, I want to do this, and it's amazing how, like, I've realized that my uniqueness is my superpower, you know, and and this is where people, everybody, every human being has their superpower, which is their uniqueness. And this is what we wish people to understand, that they're not black, they're not white, they're not Hispanic, they're not anything. All they are is they're a unique superpower within their own right. And we need
I want to explain your superpower, okay? So here's the thing. We talk about the dendrites, okay? And so what happens is this, is Ed talked about how to build a good emotion. If you understand someone's uniqueness and you know how to communicate, and again, we'll have that link to do that, you can intentionally build a good emotion. So that's really how to dissolve all this, okay, racism. Now, a lot of people talk about compassion or empathy. You are compassion server. I am not compassion. So here's what happens, okay? So in your brain, basically, there's this tree or this word or this dendrite, and what happens is when somebody shares something that's painful, So I say from a 0 to -10. If someone shares something that's a -7, I will feel a -7. You are naturally compassionate. That's your superpower. What happens is you naturally feel what that person's feeling, and you go in your brain, you find an event where the same thing happened to you and with a -7, and you feel that as well.
Yeah.
So now you're feeling a -14 and you might tear up. You get over a -10, you're going to cry. Okay. The only way I show compassion is I'll watch a movie, with my wife, and the character is like me. And he does this great thing, and I go, I remember when I did that. And he does something else. I remember when I did. Now I'm on the track of demonstrating compassion, going to the different dendrites and doing that. And something bad happens. I go, I remember when I did that. And she's like, are you crying? I'm like, that didn't make me cry. But this thing made me cry. Well, compassion, people do that naturally. So we can teach people how to have compassion, which is whatever's happened to somebody else, can you reference in your dendrites a moment when that happens so you can feel it at a higher level, which again is showing emotional intelligence. So that's what you do, Colin, is you are feeling, and that's where you're vibing it. Your unconscious is now going, you walk in a room and your unconscious going, that person's in the most pain. I don't feel that. You feel it, and you think everybody else in the world feels it. They don't. Compassion people do. People have empathy. And so that's where it's like really, if you understand intangible drivers, you can intentionally build empathy. You can intentionally demonstrate compassion. So when people talk about that, I like to say the definition of compassion, come is with, and passion means pain.
Yep. And I would just love to you've hit that nail on the head there, which is leading into this. People that want to stop racism, which is most people, it's their compassion side that want to allow them to stop it. But because they don't understand and they don't communicate in a healthy manner, their compassion comes out into harm. It's hurting the situation. That is why, like compassion server, I want to take your pain so that I can make it better and serve it to you. They might have a compassion administrator, a compassion teacher, a compassion perceiver, yeah, and their communication will be different from mine. I step back, look at the picture and come in. Now, when you get these other compassion people, because a lot of people are compassion, okay, let's face it, and when they're mixed in with their other intangible driver, it's not allowing them to come forward and communicate the way that it's going to be healthy because they don't know their uniqueness and other people's uniqueness. Now, that is what I picked up there from what you were talking.
So when I started on LinkedIn a year ago, when you started on LinkedIn, I joked with everybody that half the people on LinkedIn were exhorters. Let's make $1 million. And half the people are compassionate. Let's be nice to each other. Okay. And so this is what you just said is the way compassion works. And we can do a whole video on compassion, but I'll just say this point because you touched on it. Compassion bears the pain. So I have pain. You are drawn to me because you want to bear my pain so I can go forward. We grow by having our pain bear and go forward. My pain is gone now and I can go forward. Where did my pain go?
I've got it.
You. So you bared it. Now, if you bear everybody's pain, and my friend Jonathan likes to say, you have a pain meter, a pain sponge, you're soaking it up. At some point, you can't soak up anymore and it needs to be wrung out. And that's why compassion people are the ones who have this explosive anger. They turn into the Incredible Hulk. They basically, one little thing and they're screaming. And that's one of the ways I can tell compassion people, they don't get upset often, but when they do, holy moly, they pull the pin and everything comes out. And then they immediately feel bad that they caused even more pain. So we'll talk about that another time, but you're right. Compassion people are feeling the pain of the world. When COVID happened, the compassion people left LinkedIn. I mean, they were on it, but they stopped talking because they were feeling the pain of the world and they didn't know how to handle it. So I love to help compassion people, especially with all the racism stuff that's happening and the injustices, help them express it the right way. And so the final thing I want to say to dissolve all of this was the definition of respect. And respect is treating you the way you want to be treated. Again, intangible drivers do that, but the way to do it is this. Can I explain to you what you mean to your satisfaction.
Yep.
That's what respect is. So I'll go on LinkedIn and someone will say something and I'll ask them a question. I'll ask them their definition because I'm trying to understand them. If they don't give me their definition, I don't want to deal with them. They're too low or no self-esteem to deal with. If they do give me their definition, and then what I want to do is I want to repeat back to them. I've had people go, I'm not giving you my definition, and what are you trying to do? And they're projecting on me, they're doing all this stuff, and I've told them, what am I trying to do? I am trying to repeat back to you, to your satisfaction, what you mean, so you'll feel heard, understood, and respected. And I've had people who are so low and no self-esteem, they scream at me. And I move on. And Ed made that point beautifully. One of the things that's going to stop us dissolving racism, if people are low and no self-esteem, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yep. And low and no self-esteem, again, for me, is when we want to say something bad or hurtful to somebody else to make us feel better. That's how we know. If everything that we do is to make our energy more and other people's energy more, that's flowing. Okay, that's high kind of self-esteem. When we are doing it to hurt other people or to put someone down, even a group down, shows that we have got low or no self-esteem. And this is what we want to try and change. We want racism to be dissolved because in a sense that as much as it's a real thing, I don't believe in it because I dissolve it before I think about it, if that makes sense. So if we can do this and allow people to feel this the same way by understanding their uniqueness, and as I say, you will put the link in this video, and it'll allow people to understand each other and themselves better. It means we can all move on to a brighter world.
Excellent.
I love it. So listen, thank you so much, John. Today, again, has been absolutely brilliant. We will put the links onto the other two videos to get into the nitty-gritty, the bigger details, shall we say, or the smaller details and the bigger scale. That sounds better. So yeah, thank you so much again, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Sounds good.
Cheers, John.